Welcome back. I'm here again. Hope everybody's doing okay, if anybody's watching. A couple people have been commenting. It's nice to get comments. So keep doing that if you want. But yeah, I had a hard week. I remember Wednesday and Thursday, I felt really bad. My brother called me Wednesday night, and I didn't really talk to him that much. And then afterwards I cried. But yeah, I've talked about some aspects of why I'm feeling bad. And you know what it was Wednesday? I think Wednesday I went to therapy. I had a bad feeling after therapy, and then that made me feel bad because I realized I was putting a lot of hope into therapy and being like, it's really going to help me feel better and solve all my problems. And it's better than not doing it. I know that for sure. But the feeling after therapy this time was like, this happens every time you have a new therapist, where you kind of have to start over and explain everything to them, and they have to start from square one almost with you. But especially now, that kind of hurts. It's always annoying, but yeah, especially now, it hurts to go back, to feel like I'm going back to square one. It feels like I've been doing therapy for 7 years and I haven't made any progress, because we're talking about kind of the same things that we talk about 7 years ago. So yeah, part of that feeds into the depression I'm already feeling of this is who I am. I'm not able to connect with anybody. I'm just kind of defective person, and then double depression of I'm having these thoughts that I had 7 years ago. Same thoughts means you didn't get any better. So it can feed into that depressive mindset of well, then you'll never get any better because you didn't get better in the past 7 years. So 7 years is a long time. You'll probably never get better. Give up. Bye. Forever. And so going to therapy and being kind of talking about the same things I talked about with my first therapist, and having the same problems just kind of sucks. I have this friend from New York who wants me to play games with him online, which is really nice of him. And I did a couple times, and the couple times I did it, I didn't really enjoy it. So usually I would say, when I was in my social anxiety mindset, I'd be well, you don't want to do it because you're anxious, so just do it. Do your exposure therapy thing, and it's going to be hard, but it'll be worth it. And now that I'm not thinking about things in a social anxiety way, I'm just well, if I don't want to do it, then I'm just not going to do it. I have to find things that I want to do. My life can't just be doing things because they're hard. And then I did it. Oh, and I'm so happy I did the thing because it was hard. I just want to do easy things and like them. When am I ever going to get to do easy stuff? I don't know. So that's all. Every week's kind of a new flavor of the same ice cream of depression. The Cherry Garcia this week was being sad that I didn't want to play with my friend that kept asking. I was kind of blowing him off because I don't enjoy it. So yeah, the thing we talked about in therapy this week was I don't know. She asked me to describe myself, because part of what I'm bringing to therapy is saying I want to connect better with people. I want to enjoy being around people. And then we kind of get to the core of that, which is, okay, you're not enjoying it and you're not connecting because you're not bringing your authentic self to interactions. You're covering it up or whatever. So then she asked me what is your authentic self? And I just had a hard time answering. That was part of the frustration, is I've had this conversation a million times with therapists. who are you and what makes you happy? But yeah, the core of what I think is worth exploring there is when she asks me the question, why can't I interact with people? Like, I mean, the way I described it to her and to my other therapists is like, whenever I'm interacting with somebody, it feels like I have a longer runway to opening up and being my authentic self and connecting and communicating than other people. So it's like I'm in this interaction and I'm getting ready to take off and connection. But then there's like, oh, we're in a loud place and the other person can't really hear me. So there's like a big boulder on the runway of people can't hear me and I'm being too quiet. And then I just stop. And other people just kind of like take off like a helicopter and they just go. They're in an interaction and they just are themselves and they just connect and say how they're feeling. But for me, it feels like I have to like take off, and then a lot of the times what's in the runway is like I'll have a competing thought with myself and I'll be like, I'll say a thought to somebody and then I'll think, well, I don't want them to think that I think that that's what I think fully. So then I'll be like, I'll say something like, oh, I'm an introvert, but maybe there's some anxiety there, but also maybe there's depression, and maybe I'll just like, and sometimes I'll have those arguments inside my head and then I just won't say anything and the person will say, who are you? And then I'll just like sit there like thinking and being like, and not saying anything. Yeah, it was a good question to be like, okay, let's get at the core of who you are. I don't know. So yeah, we kind of talked about how I can talk better here in these videos, or like sometimes I do voice notes to my family and some friends. Yeah, when I do those voice notes, I can talk longer and communicate better and be my authentic self a little bit better. So why can't I do that when there's somebody there? I mean, I think it's really just like, yeah, space. I mean, space is the analogy of the runway. I need more runway. I need more space. And yeah, here, I have all the space I need. There's nobody here to think about. There's nobody here to, there's like, I'm not in an environment. I mean, sometimes like I'll hear cars outside and that'll stop me, but then I can just edit those things out. It's just space. But how do you create your own space or feel like you can take up space when you're in an interaction with other people? When I'm even just like in my therapist and I have like a ton of space, I still stop myself. How do you take up space? And my last therapist, we were talking about like, you have to feel like you deserve to take up space. Okay, I did it. I feel like I deserve to take up space. Now how do I do it? I don't know. Like, how do you solve, like, okay, if it's not enough to just identify stuff. I don't feel like I deserve to take up space. Okay, how do you solve that? She wanted me to be more mindful of, like, how I'm feeling when I'm interacting with people and I'm not talking, or I feel like there are boulders on the runway or whatever. And it just feels like, well, a couple things, like, well, first of all, it just feels like a weight where like I can't like express anything because I just feel there's a weight, and anything that like I want to express feels like, yeah, it feels like I'm getting out of the cockpit and I'm trying to push the boulder like that weight. I can't. It's like anything takes a lot of effort to just go into that space that like doesn't feel like it's for me to take up. And then I'm just like, okay, but then I feel like, oh, this is dumb. Like, I'm supposed to be interacting with people, but I don't want to because it's hard. So because of that weight, it's not comfortable. I'm uncomfortable here. And then actually, like, physically, it's not really an anxiety reaction of like, I know what anxiety feels like. But it's more like this weird tightness, even like tightness in my throat, and then like rushing to my head pressure or something. If I'm actually like mindful and think about like what is my physical reaction to people talking to me and having to interact. It's like this. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question to ask. The comments. How would you describe yourself, like your authentic self? That's part of my main homework this week is like, write down, like, who am I? Figure it out. So who do you think you are? And I wrote down some stuff for me. So I think I'll end with that. Yeah, I mean, part of my authentic self is depressed. I mean, right now I am depressed. I know that's not who I am, but sometimes I feel like when I go into interactions and I act depressed, sometimes it kind of almost feels good because it's like, this is congruent. Like, I'm not pretending to be happy, I guess, which feels gross. Like, I'm depressed and then I go into a situation and I act depressed, but that's not who I am. But that was the first thing I wrote. And also, like, anxiety is there too. I also wrote down sensitive. That's kind of what I talked about before. A lot of these things are related to that same concept. Like, I'm sensitive, I am introverted, I get overwhelmed easily by a lot of things. A lot of these things I wrote down as like, I like to be something. I like to be interesting. It's hard to be like, who's my authentic self? Oh, I'm interesting. But I know the feeling inside of me is like, I like to be interesting. That's why it's even hard to answer a question of like, who's your authentic self? Because I can answer that like a normal, boring person, but I don't want to be a normal, boring person. I don't like to appear that I am saying something cliche, I guess, or just saying things that other people have said. Even if the things I say are things other people have said, when I hear them out of my mouth, I want to be like, oh, that's different, kind of. So that's interesting to me. I do like to make jokes. I like to try to be funny. I do like helping people. I like when I interact with people and I like, yeah, even if someone is like, can you help me with this thing? And then I help them. I think it's because it feels like, oh, I actually can do something. Like, and I did it, and then I helped them, and then they're like, oh, thanks. That makes me feel good. So I like doing that. I like having goals and something to work towards. Like last year I wrote down a goal about like I wanted to get a promotion, and then I was like working on my resume and doing some interviews, and then I got this new job. I also had the goal of like getting a master's degree, so now I'm working on that. I like having goals. I don't know, I feel like we're getting further away from like personality, but stuff I thought of. There's an aspect of religion too that I didn't really flesh out that is important to me. Yeah, I don't know. How would you answer that question? Yeah, it's just hard. I just don't know. I don't know what I want my life to look like. So it's just really hard to be motivated to do much. I don't really like doing anything. I gave it a try, being normal, having a girlfriend. Sometimes I think about like how normal I was with my girlfriend, and like I was with her all the time, and we did so much stuff together, normal people stuff. I have flashes in my brain as like, was that real life? Did that really happen? And now I'm back fully to like what my life usually is like. Being alone most of the time and going to work and not really enjoying it. Doing therapy. Posting videos. Definitely preferred the normal part, but it didn't work because I wasn't exactly what I wanted. I could talk about my ex-girlfriend and what happened sometime, if anybody's curious. I think I could talk about it in a way that wouldn't be like disrespectful to her, and I don't know. Maybe that would be weird to talk about. If anybody's out there, hang in there. We'll make it through together. If I can hang in there, you can hang in there. Okay. Smell you later. Bye.